So a couple weeks ago, Renee Good was shot and killed by an ICE agent after she hit the agent with her car. Steve Kerr had some thoughts on that.
It's shameful, really, that in our country we can have law enforcement officers who commit murder and seemingly get away with it. It's shameful that the government can come out and lie about what happened when there's video and witnesses who have all come out and disputed what the government is saying. So very demoralizing, devastating to lose anyone's life, especially in that matter. So it's terribly sad for her family and for her and for that city. And I'm glad the Timberwolves came out and expressed that sadness.
Talk about controlling the narrative, right? Right off the bat, you've got Steve Kerr saying that an ICE agent committed murder. Now, what has been one thing that the left wing has screamed throughout this entire immigration operation by Donald Trump and the Republican-controlled government? Due process. You can't just deport people and rip them away from their families without due process. You gotta have due process. They're not following due process. Okay. Doesn't this ICE agent get due process? Where's the due process? Murder, by the way, is a legal term used to describe a conviction of killing another human being. Steve Kerr has said, roll the tape again if you need to. He said an agent committed murder. That is not him equivocating. That is not saying it appears or it looked like to me. No, he said an agent committed murder. And he goes on to say that the government is lying about what happened. Well, again, that is a matter of opinion. Some people saw the video and said the ICE agent shouldn't have shot her. Some people have said she hit him with her car. He was acting in self-defense. I'm not here to adjudicate who's in the right, who's in the wrong. I'm going to listen to the left-wingers, and I'm going to afford due process. Let's get all the evidence. Let's see what happens. But Steve Kerr, standing up there on his pulpit, lecturing us about what happened, who's lying, and of course, Steve Kerr is, he's the arbiter of truth. So whatever he says, that must be what happened, because he saw the same video we all saw. And again, there are differing opinions. As he mentioned, witness statements differ. Agents differ. Let's let the process play out, Steve. Then last week, again in Minnesota, we had a border agent shoot a protester in what appeared to be, from video, a struggle. Once again, I'm not going to weigh in on what I think happened because I don't think it matters. The video's out there. I think people should decide for themselves what they think happened. I think we should let the legal process play out. But I was interested in what Steve Kerr might have to say, because the Golden State Warriors played in Minnesota over the weekend. In fact, the NBA postponed Saturday's game for the safety of the community. Interesting that the Minnesota Wild still played their game, but I'm not going to dive down that path. So they postponed the game, and I figured Steve Kerr would have a similar take, that he would mention that Alex Preddy was murdered by Border Patrol agents. But Kerr took a little bit of a different tone this time around.
I think it's our responsibility to look after each other, look after our fans, to use our platforms in the right way, and to hopefully extend empathy and compassion to people. I think in any position of leadership, it's important to show empathy and concern, and I think that's our role in cases like this.
Wait a minute. Now your role is empathy and compassion? You're not going to spout off about the government, lying, murder. Why? Why did Kerr's tone change between what happened with Renee Good and what happened to Alex Preddy? It's interesting, right? It was interesting to me. He seemed to tone down the rhetoric, and now all of a sudden, Steve Kerr wants to talk about empathy and compassion. Okay, let's see what else he had to say.
I think no matter what side of the aisle you stand on, I think remembering the values that come with the Constitution, that come with citizenship, the values of looking after each other, are so important right now just because of the extremism that we can feel from all over the place. People are so angry, and there should be an appeal to our better angels to look after one another and to recognize what's happening. We're being divided by media for profit, by misinformation. There's so much out there that is really difficult for all of us to sort of reconcile. You can't just say I'm right and the other person's wrong. Not in this current climate of nonstop news flooding at us, it's hard to decipher what's real and what's not, what's true and what's not true.
Is this the same guy? The one who 2 weeks ago was talking about murder and how awful the government is, which, by the way, again, Donald Trump was elected by a majority of American citizens. So when you criticize Trump in such a way, you're being divisive. You're going to sit up here and say that we need to be less divisive and people are so angry and so extreme. Steve Kerr has called for insane gun control, something that millions and millions of Americans disagree with. I mean, how can he, with a straight face, 2 weeks after talking about murder and the government lying, now turn around and say, well, whichever side of the aisle you're on, like, we need to, not be so extreme, and it's important that we show empathy and compassion. Like, I don't even understand. I don't understand. I mean, maybe we need to give Steve Kerr credit. Maybe he realized in the past 2 weeks that, hey, maybe what I said a couple weeks ago wasn't the right thing to do. Maybe I do need to change my tone a little bit. Maybe I'm part of the problem. And I was going to give Steve Kerr credit. I really was. But then the Warriors played the Timberwolves again on Monday night in Minnesota. And after the game, Kerr was back to his old tricks.
Not like they're rooting out violent criminals, They're taking 5-year-old kindergartners and U.S. citizens and detaining people, and immigration is a problem that needs to be addressed, but it needs to be addressed by Congress, legislatively, not by a military force and in the streets, pulling people from their homes.
I mean, people care what he thinks. We're all listening, and he's the one that's out here spreading this misinformation. And by the way, Steve Kerr, at the very end, I don't know if you noticed that, he said that we shouldn't be taking people from their homes when it comes to immigration enforcement. I got news for you, Steve Kerr. If you're an illegal immigrant, your home isn't here. We're not taking you from your home. In fact, we're actually trying to accomplish what you want, which is people being in their homes. Go to your home. It's not here. If you are here illegally, this is not your home. So spare me with all the nonsense about ripping people from their homes or tearing families apart. You chose to tear your family apart when you came into this country illegally. You knew there were potential consequences. And that goes back to his other point where he says we need to deal with this legislatively. We have. You can't come into this country illegally. It's pretty simple. There are laws on the books. And yeah, they're not being followed. So at a certain point, there is going to need to be some force involved. People are going to have to be removed. People aren't, what do you think is going to happen? Congress is going to say, hey, you know what? We're really serious about that illegal immigration stuff. So we need everyone who's here illegally, go ahead, put your hand up, turn yourself into the local police department, and we'll gently escort you back to your home country. Come on. Really? That's the solution you think is going to work, Steve Kerr? You think Congress can just make a decree and all the illegal immigrants are just going to leave of their own accord? Of course not. We're at this point because of the previous administration letting so many illegal immigrants flood into this country. Now, the only way to clean it up is, yes, we're going to have to apply some extra pressure and some extra force. Sorry, I know you don't like it, but what happened to not being extreme? Maybe you could not spread misinformation.